So what we're talking about, geeks, is the Snappy Crappie and the Dead Drift. This is a Snappy Crappie by Duo Realis. This thing has got killed this morning. This color is one of my favorites because it's so super natural. It is the black crappie. Now, these things from spawn all the way through to the shad spawn will get annihilated. And what I love to do with these things is, just like right now, there's a tree over there loaded with bluegill. Why are those bluegill up here? Well, they're up here because they've been spawning, or they're getting ready to spawn. So the shad have pretty much spawned out. The bluegill are now pulling up on the beds. And what's great, again, is the bass have already spawned and they're making their way out to the main lake. But what happens is they're going to stop in some laydowns on some structure, and they're going to take advantage of the smorgasbord of bait fish that's coming their way. And that's when you throw a Snappy Crappie or a Dead Drift. And I'll explain to you why you want to pick up one over the other. The Snappy Crappie has been the go-to today, but tomorrow the Dead Drift could be the way. So the places I'm going to fish this, it is a slow sink, but the places I'm going to fish this, especially right now, it's a great bait to start early in the morning, about halfway back in the creeks. Now, like I said, we've seen a ton of bluegill in the trees back here in the backs of these creeks, and this is a great bait to go fishing those when that happens. The way I like to fish this is, retrieve wise, I like to do a couple of different things. I'm going to cast it right up there, and sometimes I'm just going to twitch it. I'm just going to jerk it like a jerk bait. And it's got a really good walk action and flash to it, almost like it's dying or it's trying to flee. But I will say, most of the time this thing is going to make a pretty big splash, so when it hits the water, one of the very first things I like to do is the same way I fish a spinnerbait. I'm going to give it about 2 quick turns of the handle and twitch so it turns and looks back at where it just came from, like it was already there, and whatever that splash was scared it. So 2-3 turns real quick, give it a snap of the rod or a quick turn of the rod handle and get it to turn around and look back. A lot of times those bass cannot stand that. Then I'm just going to slow walk it. So as it's turned back around, I'm just going to get it to turn and start swimming off. That's my little more complicated, but I'm going to get it to swim off and I'm going to stop it. And then I'm going to get it to swim off and I'm going to stop it. Now, I'm not going to stop it very long because it does sink. So if that bass is going to come up out of that tree, I want him to react to that bait. And that's what a multi-joint bait is good for. It's good to get those active bass to react. Now, probably my other best and favorite retrieve, and it's definitely the second retrieve, is going to be, I'm going to throw it out there, it's going to splash, and I'm just going to twitch and jerk. Just take the rod and twist. It is like fishing a jerk bait during the summer. I'm just going to twitch real hard and then stop. Because what I hope it does is it simulates this bluegill chasing something it's trying to eat and not paying attention, and a big old bass comes and swallows it fast. Now, something I am going to tell you, this does have treble hooks. You're throwing it on a beefy hook. It does have a lot of weight. Keep your rod tip down. I lost a good one this morning because I set the hook and tried to drag it in, and it was a good big smallmouth. And you know, you just got to play these fish. You don't want to pull so hard that you're ripping the bait out. It's just with treble hooks, and big baits, it's such a fine line. You're going to lose fish, but it's such a fine line of playing them and dragging them in. You don't want to play them too long because eventually they're going to throw that bait. But you also don't want to do what I did this morning and think I was throwing a single hook swim bait and just start wrenching on them, because that's how I lost 2 this morning, 2 good ones. Now, like I said, if it's me, I'm gonna start working, especially right now, the middle of the major creeks, the backs of the creeks, anywhere where I see shad or where I can see bluegill in the trees or bluegill beds. That's where I'm gonna start working this. But in the end, when you're trying to land these, make sure that you're calling your buddy for the net or trying your best to get the net out yourself. Land these on your thumb, but be super careful. These things are super, super sharp. Now, I do make some modifications, as you can see, to the Snappy Crappy, simply because I am fishing Highlands reservoirs. But before we talk about that, I want to talk to you about the dead drift. Now, this is great when they're not, absolutely not, going to come up and hit something on the surface. Now, if you can coax them up out of the grass, out of the trees, and they'll come up and hit something on the top water or slightly subsurface, that's when this comes in. Now, this says threadfin shad, but to me it really looks like a baby bluegill. And this is a little bit different. Now, it's going to swim just like the Snappy Crappy, but the dead drift is going to quickly turn over and float like a dead and dying bait fish. So if those fish are up super shallow, this is absolutely what you want, because it is meant to be a topwater bait. With it, generally there's really one retrieve that you can do. Again, I'm going to make the cast out to where I want. A lot of times it's going to be around cover, somewhere where I know that there's going to be bluegill and there's going to be bluegill eaters. And I'm going to give it a couple turns of the reel, stop it, and let it float up. I'm just going to let it sit there for a second or two. I'm going to crank it back down again, let it swim, and then let it float back up like it's dead and dying. Really, that's the only retrieve you need with this. I love to throw it over laydowns and work it real slow. Just a quick little snap movement of the reel handle and then let it sit there, drawing those bass up out of that tree. If they'll come up and hit top water and they're down deep in the trees, this is money. Now, they're going to hit it two different ways, and it's going to be when it's sitting there or as soon as it moves. One of the two. 90% of the time, as soon as it stops and floats up, they're going to come up and knock the crap out of it. You will have to give it just a second, set those hooks, and it's the same exact way. This is a lot of bait with treble hooks. So it is a fine line between horsing them in and playing them. A little softer rod tip on these. We'll talk about that later. And again, I do make a slight modification to even this bait. So let's talk about that now. Snappy Crappy, dead drift. They look very much alike. They're weighted a little bit different. This one's got a little bit of rattle, and it really slaps when it's coming through. I don't know if that picked up in the water, but it's got a little bit, when you're reeling it real fast, it's got a little bit of clack to it. Tick. So it's going to draw those bass to it. This one, a little more quiet. But again, a lot of the same things. Now, one thing that I do like, and I kind of hate a little bit too, and that's this little tail. I love this tail. I love the concept of this tail, but keeping this bait running straight, not so much important on the dead drift, but on the Snappy Crappy, I like how it's designed to fit in, or the hook is designed to fit in this. Now, I like the concept of the tail, but they do pop out a little bit. Something that I have discovered you need to do: drop a little bit of glue right here. It will save you time, trust me. So you can see it'll run, and it'll actually keep this bottom a little less exposed, so not too bad. But something that I do to modify both of these is I take my Avid Angler pen. We have a lot of small bluegill, young bluegill, and I'll just take and paint up the tail or the tip so that it looks just like a small bluegill. So that's one of the modifications I'll make on both of them. The other, because the lakes I fish can be pretty deep, is on the front hook I'll put a little bit of tungsten putty. This is tungsten super sink fish, okay? Comes in a little tin. I don't recommend leaving this out around kids because it is a little square. It is not gum. I don't think it would be pleasurable to chew. And if you knew my grandkids, it's very possible this would get eaten. So, but that's the other modification I'll make when in deeper water or as it comes to me, is I want it to sink just a little bit quicker. Now, like I said, the difference in these to me is, are they willing to come up or do you need to fish down to them? So you've got baits that are going to cover everything in the water column. So let's talk about different colors. Now, they've got a bunch of wild colors. I'll be the first to tell you. This is a dead drift, and these actually weigh, the dead drift weigh, they're about 3 3/4 inches long, and they weigh an ounce. So we'll talk about rod reel line setup here in just a minute. This is clear chartreuse mirage. And I'm pretty sure that most of the colors come in both the dead drift and the snappy crappie. This is a snappy crappie. This is a wild color here. This is matte black OT. Another dead drift. This is double orange chartreuse tail. And you can see actually on the back how these are designed to lay. This is another dead drift. This is mullet SG. Now, I know I'm going to butcher this. This is either Noki bass or Noaki bass. This is a snappy crappie, and this is ghost chartreuse. This is a dead drift 95 in red shiner. Now, I do need to mention that the snappy crappie is a little bit heavier. It's 1 1/8 ounce. So just a touch heavier than the dead drift because, again, the dead drift floats. You can see it's got some internal weighting systems. And this is prism gill. And I actually think this is the one that we've been throwing today, and this is crappie white. Oh no, actually I see it. I'm not going to be able to show you this, but apparently it's a white crappie on this side and a black crappie on the other side. Paint job. I've not noticed that. This is another dead drift. This is vanish chartreuse. Last but not least, we got a couple of snappy crappies. This is matte tiger, and this is black crappie. So let me show you what rod reel line I use and how to rig them. Rod reel line, this is a Douglas Era. This is a $100 rod. And I've got a 10% off for you if you want to go check them out. And trust me, you should. They've got the cork grips, which are incredible. This is the frog rod, frog and jig rod. But this is a 7'4". Again, it's the frog and jig rod. So it's perfect for a lot of applications. It is good, 7/16 to 2 ounces. So it is perfect for this. So this is a C745 fast, but it still has a good enough tip to fight these bass with these treble hooks. I really like this rod. It has quickly become one of my favorite rods. I've got it paired with the Fitzgerald LD10. This is a 6.5 to 1. I wouldn't recommend going over that because you will blow these out, get them moving too fast or move them too far. You don't want them moving really fast and really far. You want to stay in that strike zone when you're using this bait. And you geeks know, as always, I've got this paired with 12 to 15. I've got 15 on here right now. Pro 100, which is 100% fluorocarbon from K9. Make sure you go check it out. I've got a 10% off for that in the description also. Okay, so on both of these baits, I don't use snaps and I don't use a loop knot. There's just really no need for it. I just go ahead and use my normal pit seam knot. So we just wrap it around about 5 to 7 times. Come through that top. Cinch it. Moisten. Cinch up. Cut the tag in. All right, geeks, you need to go pick up some snappy crappie and a dead drift. You don't have to pick up a lot of them. Pick up the ones that work in your area to give the bass 2 different presentations. Now, as I always say when it comes to hard baits, and what we found this morning was that lower light, we had some cloud cover first thing in the morning, seems to work best on hard baits. So don't go out there in the middle of the day, in the middle of the sun. We tried it, but it did not work today. They got a little bit deeper and just were not going to come up out of those trees and hit this. But during the morning, they were all about it, and I wished we would have got here earlier because we'd have had a heck of a day early. If you want to learn about another great bait during the summer, during the ledges, during the shad spawn, during the bluegill spawn, make sure you go check out this video right here. Otherwise, questions and comments in the comment section below. You geeks know I love to talk about fishing with you. Like it if you like it. Don't forget to subscribe. Make sure you ring that bell. Again, we did get another attempted hack. We are in YouTube jail, so every view, be part of that 100% watch squad. It really helps us out right now, geeks. And as always, you geeks rock.